Hi there, my name is Martin Stone from Switch On Health, and thank you for joining us for this evening's chat with Penny Barron. So, this is our Supervisor Spotlight, we shall call this series. So, thank you very much for joining us live if you are watching this live. If you are watching the recording, thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. If you are watching this live, there will be the opportunity to ask questions, so please do stick around. If you're watching the recording, you are welcome to ask us any questions or put any comments in that you like into that comments box below, and we promise we will get back to you. Also, if you happen to be watching this on YouTube and you like what we do, then please do hit that subscribe button, because the more subscribers we have, the more we can offer, and we look forward to offering you more. So, tonight I'm very happy to be joined by Penny Barron, who is a homeopath, and Penny works at the Harbord Homeopathic Clinic in Sydney. Now, as well as being a qualified homeopath and naturopath and an approved supervisor for Switch On Health, Penny also founded the Aurum Project. And if you don't know what the Aurum Project is, well, guess what? Switch On Health has already actually done an interview with Lindsay Jordan, who is the director of the Aurum Project. So I'm going to put that link in the comments below, and you'll be able to watch the recording of that in your own time. So, Penny, first of all, perfect timing with the old dog there.
Yeah. Sorry. Down you get. Sorry.
Well,
That's good.
thank you very much for joining us and bringing your dog. I love four-legged friends.
Yeah, yeah, that was very good timing. Thank you for having me here, Martin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks so much. So, look, first of all, I guess, we'll start with the obvious questions. How long have you been a homeopath, and what led you to, what made you make that decision? How and why did you get started on this journey?
Well, it's a little bit convoluted. So I've been a homeopath for about 20 years, and I remember being in high school, and you know how you have to fill out those careers forms, those surveys where it kind of spits out a job at the end that you're meant to be wanting to do, and it kept coming up with physiotherapist, nurse, all these things, and I was like, no, that's not it. And I remember being in year 11, and there was some parent something or other blah blah gathering, and there was this woman there in this patterned moo who was like really hippie, and everyone was, because I went to this private girls' school, which I didn't really enjoy very much. And there was this woman there in this patterned kind of hippie moo type thing, and everyone was nudging each other, going this. And I remember just going, that's what I want to do. And my parents, they're really very conservative scientists, they're geologists. And so when they heard that I wanted to do naturopathy, they were like, no, 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 that's really woo-woo, that's unscientific. And then they said, why don't you do chiropractic? So I did the science degree. It's kind of I think at the time you had to do this sort of med science degree along with the chiropractic. So that's why I did all that stuff. So I did the anatomy and cut up dead bodies and, the pathology and blah, blah, did all of that. Started the part-time chiropractic alongside it. And then by the end, I was like, no, this is not for me. So I went traveling, came back and went, I want to study naturopathy. I'd never heard of homeopathy before. So I started with naturopathy. And I just remember I was working in a health food shop, and oh well, learning about the herbs. They were amazing, but the kind of classes were really dry and scientific, and there was this part of me that just wanted the myth and the legend and the magic behind the herbs. And I felt a bit disappointed, and I was like, oh no, I've kind of just swapped over, and what do I do? And this colleague was walking down the steps at this health food shop where there was a clinic up the top. She was a naturopath, and she said, if I have to tell one more effing client to eat any more effing broccoli and do more effing exercise, I'm going to effing kill myself. And I thought, oh my God, what have I got myself into? I don't know if this is quite right. And I was starting to panic. And then I remember sitting at this cafe, at the little nature care cafe. I was studying at Nature Care College. And all the students were sitting around complaining because we all had to do homeopathy as a subject alongside naturopathy. And so I joined in. I'd never heard of homeopathy, but I still bashed it because, that's what you do. And I remember sitting in that class. It was the first 5 minutes of the class, and I went, oh my God, this is it. So I wanted to do both, but then I got pregnant. So I remember like sitting up in the back seat, breastfeeding and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, so I ended up finishing homeopathy first, and then later on I did the other, the nutrition and the naturopathy I did later. And in my final year in homeopathy, a friend of mine just casually mentioned that there was a job going at the Harbord Homeopathic Clinic as an admin. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll give that a go. My daughter by then was one. I couldn't even get babysitting for the interview. So I brought her along. And I ended up sitting in this kitchen because at the time the clinic was at Linley's house. And I was sitting there with Linley and Bernadette, who was working there as well. They were the only two practitioners on. And it was just this surreal experience. And then they went, oh, yeah, when do you want to start? So I'm there doing all this admin. And then Linley she's really, really passionate about research, which was why she wanted to start a research charity. So you're very generous, Martin, to say that I'm the founder. I'm not actually. She put me in charge of kind of doing a bit of the legwork, but it was as part of my admin job. So I feel a bit bad you saying that.
My bad. I thought it was you for some reason, and I wasn't quite sure how Lindley fit it into the picture. So thank
Yes.
you for putting me right on that one.
Yeah. So Linley's always been the driver of that. And she wanted, I think because she saw that I had a science degree, she wanted me to do some of the research. I was terrible at research. I was so bad. Anyway, so yeah, that was, and I've always, like, I've struggled all my life with, like, I had quite a lot of trauma growing up. So, that whole physician heal thyself, I've always been kind of looking at modalities that can help support me through my healing at first. And then I was really passionate about, okay, I've been through all this. Now I want to put that to good use, helping other people get through, especially. And that's what I do a lot of in my clinic. I have woman after woman sitting in my clinic who have been really traumatized. And often I find, like, as I've gone through the years, the age of woman that I'm mainly supporting has kind of kept up with me. So I attract sort of my age women now. I don't really see a lot of men, it's more women. And it's women now going through menopause who have had kind of hardcore stuff go on in their lives. And a lot of the time, what happens is it affects their adrenals. They get a lot of health issues, and they need support both on the emotional homeopathic level, and also that's why I did nutrition and naturopathy as well, because I found that it was just so good working together with all of them on that whole sort of level.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Thanks, Penny. Um, I was just thinking today, actually, I probably think this kind of thing a lot. This is. What goes on in my head.
Yes.
I was thinking today about how, um, in some ways to me, mainstream medicine just seems so rudimentary to me. It's excellent when it comes to, physical trauma care, like when you get hit by a car or something like that, any
Yes.
sort of necessary surgery. Um, and, one of the things that I love about herbal medicine is that we've got, entire categories of herbs that do things that modern medicine modern pharmaceutical medicine, they just don't have anything that's equivalent to it at all. So,
Absolutely.
I'm with you. And I think herbal medicine is magic. It's like this gift from the earth. You can grow it
Oh,
in your back garden, you can go
absolutely.
out, pull it out of the ground and
Yeah.
use it. And of course,
And I'm not bashing herbal medicine, by the way, because I use it and I love it. It was just,
yeah,
yeah, back at the time.
yeah. So, I guess with today's techniques, we're able to take those plants out of the ground and, create really much more powerful medicines out of them than, I guess, traditional methods like drinking it as a cup of tea and so on. So, I kind of put like modern medicine here and herbal medicine. I'm like, wow, well, this really rocks. And then I start thinking about homeopathy and I'm like, you know what? Herbal medicine is really great. homeopathy
Yes.
just kicks some other things out of the park because there are things you can do with homeopathy that herbal medicine can't even touch, you know?
Yeah, it's like that next level.
Yeah, absolutely. All the mental, emotional, psychological, the healing of the past. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I often liken it to I think somebody, not me, I didn't coin this phrase, but the psychiatry of the natural therapies.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, so you started at Harvard. You got
yeah.
involved with homeopath with the Aurum project. Have you basically sort of been there ever since, or
I have.
have you sort of got off and done other things?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, with that, when I finished my diploma and started out on that whole kind of, taking cases on my own type of thing. God, I remember that was just so scary. And it was so good to have Lindley there. She's been the most incredible mentor to me. And I didn't like I was aware of what a special thing it was and how a lot of my friends were really struggling to start up in a clinic and stuff. Part of me maybe took it for granted because how do you kind of compare. But anyway, I look back and I think, oh my God, I'm so blessed. Yes, there were hard times because it's always hard to set up, and I had more kids and had to kind of start up at each time. There was a time when I did a little foray into a chiropractic clinic, but I was always still at the Harbord Homeopathic Clinic. That didn't work out so well, and so I came back with my tail between my legs. There was a time when I was really struggling to build up clients and have, with kids and everything, and I wanted something a little bit more consistent. So that's when I thought, oh well, I'll go to nature care and see if I can teach because and I remember this so well. I was sitting with a bunch of fellow students back in the day when I was a student, thinking, gee, wouldn't that be easy being a lecturer? You just turn up and you do your thing, and I'm sure you get paid pretty well. And there's not really, we have to do all the assignments and we have to work so hard. And so then I was aware that it was probably a little bit different to that when I did my, the Cert 4 training and assessment. It's like sticking blunt knives in your eyeballs. Um, and then uh, all of that kind of training and stuff. And I applied to Nature Care because I really wanted to work there. I loved being a student there. Um, and I remember having this big tantrum at the universe because nobody had answered. And I applied to a couple of the other colleges out of desperation then because I really wanted to make a living out of natural therapies. And sometimes it can be really hard when you're trying to build because there's no job just waiting for you at the other end. So you've got to kind of build it for yourself. And that bit I wasn't very good at. And I remember thinking, oh, come on, universe. It's so annoying, give me a job, give me something. Otherwise, I'm going to go and have to, get a real job. And that day after I had the tantrum, I came home to an email saying, hey, do you want to do some student clinic supervision in homeopathy with Nature Care? And I was like, yay. So that was 10 years ago. And that was really the only foray I did aside from a little stint for 3 years. I worked in sex ed, teaching sex ed at schools for a little while, and they're really the only foray I've ever done of out of practicing.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you talked about all that because I was going to ask, what were some of the challenges that you've had along the way, and
Mm.
I think you've covered all of those off really. So what you're saying is it's not always easy. You don't get it handed to you on a plate, in the same sort of way that you do with some of the other allied health professions. Um,
Mm.
Building up your clinic, sort of getting that momentum, that was a bit of a challenge for you. But it kind of, what I also get from what you're saying is that there are a lot of different sort of opportunities within this industry, different clinics you can work at and different avenues you can go down, whether it's working in a slightly related field or getting into teaching or, getting into the research side of things or whatever it might be.
Yes, home is so much bigger than it used to be in Australia. I think back when, I feel really old now, back when I was starting out, the social media wasn't so much there. I was absolutely terrible at all of that as well. And I think, you know, people coming out these days probably have a little bit more awareness of how to kind of hit the ground running a little bit more. And I've seen over the years various students who have that done well. They do, they hit the ground running, they have clients, and I think part of it is that terror of starting out. You know, how do I deal with all my clients and the caseloads and the getting everything right and the, you know, what if I make mistakes? Well, you will, you know, you'll stuff up over and over again. But that's why it's called practice. And it's horrible. I think a lot of natural therapy students and practitioners are kind of perfectionists and they want to be really good and they don't want to stuff up, and that's really mortifying when you do. But you've just kind of got to get over that hurdle, because once you do, and it's terrifying, like, you know, that whole whatever Nike saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. You've just got to do that, otherwise you're going to fall by the wayside. You've got to face that, and that's really hard.
Yeah, I get the impression that there's a whole bunch of people we've got in the room right now who are nodding their heads when they're hearing you say this. And I think that in a sense, this is, it's a double-edged sword of what we do as complementary medicine practitioners. And this is how I see it, I guess when you're a doctor, um, it's very much kind of protocol driven. It's not about the person. It's about, do they have this? Is their blood count over this or under that? If so, do this. Refer to this person, prescribe XYZ, this many milligrams twice a day, or whatever it might be. So
Yeah,
in a sense, it's quite sort of it's quite sort of mechanical, and then maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on medical practitioners here, but I don't think that there's quite so much sort of individual thought put into each person. Now, what we do, of course, is every single person is unique. Our approach is going to be different. So obviously, we want to make sure we get it right because we've got a real person sitting here in front of us. So yeah, that pressure of, as you say, kind of trying to be perfect and get it.
yeah.
It's just a lot harder when you're doing it one person at a time instead of just, oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
this person's got IBS or this person's got,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. Yeah.
And then when you look at homeopathy, it takes it a step further, because you can't even go, oh, well, you know, okay, herbal mix. Well, Dong Quai is really good for blah, blah. And, you know, your Vitex and da, 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 and the progesterone. And, you know, you can't even do that. You have to kind of go deeper if you want to go constitutional.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I just want to come back to something else you said as well about how, how hard you found it when you first started out. And I think, little plug for Switch On Health here and other colleges, I think that for those of you watching this, when Penny and I went through back in the day, I honestly believe that the colleges were really pretty good at giving us very good critical thinking skills and analytical skills, and really great with, I guess, the theory of natural medicine. And then at the end, we'd kind of, pick up our scroll of paper and we think, right now I'm going to be a practitioner. And there was just this big gap in terms of, okay, how do we take all of this amazing theory that we've learned about and actually put it into practice? And I do think, not just Switch On Health here, but I think that all colleges over the last 20 years or whatever it's been since Penny and I graduated have actually got a lot better at preparing their graduates for the real world and for practice. And I can tell you that it is something that Switch On Health has got a strong focus on, that we want to make sure that by the time you graduate, you've got everything in place and you know what you're doing and you're not kind of trying to work out how to bring it all and make it happen.
Yes. Oh God, it was this howling wilderness that we got released into. And I think also the climate these days for homeopathy and naturopathy is so much nicer than it was back 20 years ago. really, when you think about it. I remember I was in this Facebook group because I live on the Northern Beaches, so Northern Beaches mums, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I wonder if I can, oh, I suffer from depression. What should I do? Oh, maybe you could try homeopathy. Oh, the pitchfork brigade. You're so irresponsible. That's all a sham, and snake oil. How dare you? And da, 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 da. And
Wow.
I remember having a few arguments before I realized there's just no point.
Mm.
So I left that group and joined a few really lovely, um, natural therapies, happy, friendly groups, and it made my little bubble. And and then it started building up. It started getting really popular, and then that stupid Flexner report in the 2010 bloody NHM and MRC report, and that kind of put the kibosh on it for a little while. And we all got really paranoid, oh, you can't talk about homeoprophylaxis and oh, the V word and all of that kind of thing. So we got a bit paranoid then for a while. But now, I mean, just hearing about the amount of new enrollments in homeopathy and it's just exploded.
Awesome. Yeah, look,
Yeah.
this is a great segue. I was going to say, okay, we've talked a little bit about some of the challenges you've had. What are some of the good things? Tell
Yeah.
us about, the highlights. What is the best thing about being a homeopath? What's really rewarding about choosing this career?
Yeah. So for me these days, it's the thing that I was scared of the most. When you come out and you're just fresh and new and uh, Jade saying Miss 13 is heading for a homeoprophylaxis consult on Saturday. Oh, great. um, yeah, the thing I was scared of the most was that deep connection with just one person in a consult room. I was terrified. Someone would start crying, and I was like, what the hell do I do here? Oh my God. And there's just never enough support on a theoretical level. You've just got to kind of get yourself through. So those people who have worked in those kinds of jobs where they're really close, to or they're really kind of already great at that rapport building. That's just going to take you so far. And that was the bit that I struggled with the most. Now, especially with a mummy, because we've all been through so much as mummies. I just love it, just getting into the nitty gritty. And sometimes I get emotional, and sometimes I get a bit teary, and I'm like, look what you've done. And it's just beautiful now because I've done it for 20 years and I feel that's just so special. And in homeopathy, you can do that. You can kind of get right to the core of what's going on for them. And in that framework of the homeopathic kind of consult, you can skirt all the bullcrap. I think that you would normally get maybe in a sort of conventional counseling session, and you can kind of take it straight to its core if the person in front of you is willing to go there. And that just, oh my God, I still get a thrill from that. I love it.
Yeah, look, I got to say, for me, there is something, I don't know, it's kind of sacred when you're in that space with someone and they could be telling you things that they wouldn't even tell their partner, and there's something, I don't know, it's like an honor or a privilege to be allowed into that space with them, and to share in that. And yeah, I've got so much respect for it, I don't know if I can really articulate this. I don't know if I'm sure you get what I'm trying to say, Penny. Um, yeah, there's just something very, very special about that therapeutic relationship that that somebody enters into with you. There's nothing else like it.
Yeah, yeah, it's really empowering to be able to go, okay, well, I've been through all this, I've studied all that, I've got all that experience. Now I can I've got something to offer, I can put it to good use. And it's not like I'm helping you from that kind of patronizing thing. It's like, let's just sit down and have this really awesome chat. And I find that, even if someone's talking about something really hardcore, there's always something to have a little laugh about, to kind of just lighten it a little bit and to and it's, as you said, Martin, it's sacred. It's like hearing their story. I reckon it's this age old sacred kind of ancient ritual that we've brought into the present. Yeah. And Simone's just said a homeopathic remedy just helped my son recover quickly from whooping cough. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It can be so powerful for that kind of thing. So on the physical level as well, we haven't really talked about that, but yeah, I find homeopathy, and sometimes when I'm supervising a naturopathy clinic, which I love, I'll get a client in and I'll think, damn, I wish I could just give a remedy here. It would be so much quicker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think something you've said there actually is, this is a bit like a revelation for me, really, because what we were saying earlier about how, you want to make sure you get it perfect. And, I'm sure that everybody watching this is going to understand what I say here, because I know that I've felt it a lot, especially with something like naturopathy.
Mm.
Homeopathy is no exception. You feel like there is so much information you've learned in your studies that somehow you need to bring all together, in that moment. You've got your anatomy and your physiology and your pathological processes, and like, oh, I've got to remember my counseling skills. And, on top of all of that, you're thinking about, the remedies that you're going to give them. And yeah, there's like a million bits of information that you're trying to pull together. And what I'm getting from what you're saying, Penny, is that, you know, not that you're going to disregard that, but you can actually just in a way, have a chat with somebody and get to the issue of what's going on. And, everything else just kind of follows. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I reckon that the thing that was holding me back from really connecting with people was all that shit in my head. Excuse my French, but you know what I mean. Like I just, and I think when you're first out, that's what you do because you're like, well, I've got to remember this and I've got to remember that and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. But I think primarily, and this is what I learned over the years, even if I wasn't able to help somebody with the remedies or get huge results with herbs or whatever I was using, nutritionals, if I could build up a really good rapport with them and get the hell out of my head and really connect with them on that heart or just everyday real level. If we could just be real together for a little while, that's what really made the difference. And then they'd open up, and then we'd be able to maybe next time get a little bit of movement with the health stuff.
Yeah, look, I've got to say, I'm not in practice anymore, but if I think back to the times when I was, and the clients that I had the most success with, definitely were the ones that I formed some sort of energetic or emotional connection with,
Yes.
and you can
Yeah.
still maintain your boundaries, you can still maintain that practitioner patient boundary. But yeah, when there was some sort of energetic connection formed between us, that just seemed to bypass everything. And I got much better results with those clients than I did the clients where it was all very professional and left brain and scientific and whatever else we want to call it.
Absolutely, 100%. And you know that thing, if you make a connection with someone and then they ask for a little bit of scientific jargon or whatever, you're in this kind of connected state anyway. So they'll receive it rather than if you try and go in with the scientific jargon first. Yeah, as you say, it's not friendly.
Mm, yeah, very
Yeah.
true. So look, Penny, if you'd like to, would you like to share, one or more, you know, I guess if your best case is like your really good result that you've had with somebody.
Yeah, I was trying to think about that. I'm really glad you gave me a little bit of warning on that because I'd just be going, oh, well, I don't know. I can't remember. There was one case that stuck out. Just I remember this kid, um, and you guys are all homeopathy students, right? Everyone's homeopathy. Yeah, so you might know the
I
remedies,
think we've got a mixture, naturopathy and homeopathy,
mixture of
and
both.
maybe others as well, but homeopathy is pretty good at converting people, isn't it?
Absolutely. Um, so this kid, the mum brought her in because she had this eczema on her back that looked like angels' wings. It was so bizarre. This was like years and years ago. I don't know why it came to me now. And the mum, I was like trying to ask about all this different stuff, and the modalities and everything else was really vague. But what I remember about the case was the mum said, "Oh, she's an angel. She's just the most perfect child. She just slept so well right from the start. She was just perfect in all ways, like ate all her vegetables, did everything she was told, hardly ever cried. She was just this dream baby." And there was just nothing else I could find that was kind of wrong with her. And so I went into the mum's history a bit, and the mum had gone through a bit of a nasty kind of divorce and battle and all of that kind of thing. And there'd been a lot of disharmony in the house. But once that was kind of all over, it kind of felt a little bit like the mum was struggling and almost relying on the daughter for kind of emotional support, I guess, maybe a little bit. And no blame with that. God, it's hard going through divorce and all of that kind of thing. Absolutely understand. But it was like the kid was really attuned to the mum's needs emotionally. And that was kind of when the eczema had started, when all of that had started going on. And all I could see was just this, I need to be perfect, because that then kind of helps to keep the harmony, I suppose. And so I gave this kid carcinosinum 30C probably, or whatever, once a day for a few weeks. And the mum brought her back in, and the angel's wings had gone. All the eczema had disappeared.
Please don't tell me they were replaced by little horns coming out of the head.
I think the kid was a little bit more able to stick up for herself,
Expressive. Yeah.
aggressive and all of that, but she was still a very sweet kid. So yeah, the parent got a good deal out of it. Yeah. Yeah, so that's one. I remember this other kid, he was sleeping all the time, like 16, 18 hours a day. And he was prone to very bad chest infections. Um, and the chest infections were characterized by this horrible rattly cough where, it was almost like it sounded like he was kind of dying almost. And one of the biggest, most characteristic elements of the case was that he didn't want anybody to look at him. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. And he was really cranky and he'd hide. But he wasn't shy. It was just, don't look at me. And even when he was sitting in the consult, he'd give me this look like, don't look at me. And so I gave him ant tart, because ant tart is very good. Antimonium tart is very good for rattly coughs where they can't get the mucus up and they're super, super tired. So the kid went from sleeping like 16 hours a day to 8 to 10 or whatever it was. He was maybe 7 or 8. And the mum came back complaining because even though the coughs were gone and his behaviour had settled down and he was a lot happier in himself, he wasn't sleeping as much. He was waking up too early and going to bed too late at night.
I'm assuming you didn't give him a sedative.
And she didn't have enough time in her day anymore.
I think what I'm getting here as well is, sometimes it's not just the kids that need the remedy. Maybe the parents might benefit as well.
Oh dear, I know that's really scathing on the parents, and I'm actually very supportive to parents because I know how hard their job is. I'm a parent too. So before you think, oh God, she's really mean to parents, I'm not. I've got like a lot of parent stories as well, but they're more like the trauma and the sepia. Oh my God, I see so many sepia women where they're just feeling really crappy in their lives and dead below the waist and no libido and hormonal issues and feeling really cranky, and you give them a little dose of sepia. I love sepia 6C for that feeling of just every day. And yeah, they just feel so much better in themselves. And usually I try and put them on a little bit of a diet. Melissa Murdoch's going, yay, sepia. It's the best remedy ever for that kind of thing. Yeah, so I mean, Oh God, I don't know how many women I've given sepia to over the years, or nat mur, or some of those ignatia, some of those remedies that just help to lift
Yeah,
that just weight of motherhood off them a little bit. I mean, you can't completely, can you? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, homeopathy, it's life changing, it really is. Yeah.
When you get it right, sometimes it's a little bit underwhelming when you struggle to find the right remedy. So Lisa, my daughter lives on nat mur and pulsatilla. Love pulsatilla, beautiful.
So, gosh, look, Penny, the time's getting away from us. I feel like we could keep going all night. So, what else did I want to ask you? Let's say we might have actually covered some of this kind of by default. Supposing somebody's at the beginning of their career, maybe as a naturopath or a homeopath, or they're studying, or maybe they're thinking about it. As somebody that's been through it, and still going strong after 20 odd years, what advice would you give to somebody who's starting out or even just thinking about starting out?
I would say when you're first starting out, have like maybe an everyday job that you do. Like I started out working in a health food shop, um, an everyday job to support you while you build up your practice, and then you won't feel desperate. Like, a lot of people who have to kind of drop off along the way have kind of a game plan in place and don't obsess so much about, will I know enough when I get out there? Because what I've found is I run a student clinic, and sometimes my students, because they've just been to these amazing classes and learned about all these remedies, or they've been to a big seminar or convention or whatever, sometimes they get the remedy that I miss. You know what I mean? Like, and in naturopathy as well, you guys think you're new and you know nothing, and oh, how can I better charge the prices that are going at the moment? But you guys, you have done so much work to get to this point. It's all current, and you're fresh, So actually, you've got a lot of good stuff about yourselves to kind of go forward with. And that whole thing around, the broke healer, how in the old days there's all these things in books around when you pay the healer, it's in a dozen eggs or something, or some goat milk. That was the old day, and the healer used to live in squalor. Well, these days it's a little bit different. And I think we need to remember that we need to pay our bills too. We need to look after our kids. We need to be able to, even once in a while, afford to be able to go out for dinner or do something nice. So don't feel guilty for charging after all that study that you've done and all that passion and life experience that you've got. Because if you don't, the clients take the piss. And I did a half price kind of thing for a little while on a particular day when I first came out of um, because I felt a little bit insecure about all of that. Really like brutal. And also, I ended up earning less than my daughter did working at Macca's, only because I had all of these other expenses to pay. And it's just so cheapening of your experience. So charge the going rate and have faith in what you've learned, and your passion and everything else.
Awesome, Penny. Wise words. Yeah, look, I was going to say in terms of having that day job, ideally something else within the industry, whether it's the health food shop or working reception in a clinic or,
Yeah.
whatever else it might be. We're in a very diverse industry. There's complementary medicine in Australia. We're lucky compared to other countries. It's huge. There are a lot of opportunities. For me, I actually started out as a massage therapist, which kind of gave me a springboard to then start getting clients in as a naturopath. Also worked
Mm.
in health food stores. And then, yeah, I got into teaching at one of the colleges. And yeah, just what you said, Penny, about how, sometimes your fresh sort of graduates come out and they know things or pick up things that people that have been around for a lot longer might miss. Bit of a trap of
Yeah.
practice there, as Hahnemann would call it. And yeah, look, I was going to say, guys, you know, education in complementary medicine, and Penny will definitely attest to this, it's always getting better. We're always raising the bar. So the education that you guys are getting today, it's got to be better. I don't want to say better, like more superior. But, I think just as we develop as humans, we just get better at what we do, which includes education in what we do. So, yeah, don't ever feel that you're not getting as good a deal as somebody who studied a long time ago. You could be getting something that is way better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to read out these little notes? We've got a few little quick notes here.
So I think what we might do
You done?
is maybe we should stop the recording and we'll invite everybody who's live here with us to switch on their camera and have a chat and ask questions and so on. And look, if you are watching this recorded version, thank you so much for watching to the end. We do have more coming up. So this is our first session with Penny. Penny's actually going to be doing another session for us soon where she's going to talk about the clinic experience that she offers to people who are studying. So, obviously, when you're studying naturopathy or homeopathy or whatever it is, an essential part of your training is that clinic experience. And Penny, as one of our supervisors, will be back another time to talk to you about what she has to offer as a clinic supervisor. So, I know we're all looking forward to that one. Penny, is there anything else you want to say before I switch off the recording?
Oh God, put me on the spot. I think we've said enough, haven't we? Thanks, Mum.
Yeah, thanks, Penny.
Luck, everybody. Good luck in your practice. And if you don't want to practice, there's lots of other pathways. And maybe I look forward to seeing you at some stage wherever.
Like the Woodford Folk Festival, for example.
Yeah, that was really fun. Highly recommended.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So if you're watching the recorded version, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you're watching live, please do stick around for a chat, learn more with Switch On Health.